73 on Sunday. But since we're on the topic of AEW and CM Punk, recently on the Hall of Fame podcast radio show that is hosted by WWE Hall of Famer Booker T, he had comments about CM Punk's promo from Rampage this Friday. Can't believe I'm actually going to do it. But Ed, would you read the comments of Booker T from his podcast on CM Punk's promo?
Dave, I never thought you'd ask. I would be more than happy to, but I need to let you know, full disclosure, I do have the actual audio of Booker T making these comments. So would you rather hear me speak his words or hear it direct from Booker?
Ed, you can go fuck yourself. I don't have to hear you actually speak, which is great. God, thank you, God. Thank you. If you need to believe that there's a God, there's the proof. Thank you, God. We don't have to hear from Ed Robinson. Ed, please play the audio from WWE Hall of Famer Booker T from his show, the Hall of Fame podcast.
Oh, fine.
And he had 10 full television minutes. He had the perfect crowd to be able to go out there and really, I'm talking about have a party up in that United Center, okay? But CM Punk came back and took his moment and chose to talk about WWE. That right there was just a total miss as far as I'm concerned. I can only imagine if The Rock had that same 21,000 in Miami, Florida. The Rock would have talked about every landmark in Miami that everybody in Miami frequent since they were little bitty kids. He would have talked about the bridge that they had to come across. He would have talked about the school that we had to come up fighting. He would have had those fans going crazy with excitement. But CM Punk chose to talk about the WWE. And that 9 minutes went by so slow when it could have been a party going on in the United Center. I could be wrong.
There's one line that wasn't in there that was, I think, the most impactful line from what he said about CM Punk, Bully, and that was when he said that he struck out. He believes he struck out with that promo. I disagree with that. And listen, no disrespect to Booker. Love Booker. He's been on this show many, many times. But, Bully, he couldn't be more wrong. To say that he struck out and to say that 9 minutes went so slow. I'm sorry. Those two things couldn't be more wrong when you look back at CM Punk's promo from this past Friday.
I saw more emotion in that arena than I've seen in a long time. Real emotion. You go back to the guy that was crying. Now, as far as Punk's comments with regard to the WWE, he never mentioned the WWE by name, correct?
No.
And to my what Booker is saying is not resonating with me because to my recollection, I would have remembered if Punk talked about the WWE too much. Because 9 out of 10 times, me and Booker will most likely agree because of our background in this industry, our knowledge of promo psychology, yada, yada. It did not jump off the page to me that Punk spoke too much about the WWE. I did make a tiny criticism of the promo where Punk talked about the WWE in a way where I would have stayed away from it and said, listen, they made you a millionaire and a household name. Let's just move on from that. So if Booker were to say, hey, small critique, don't even go near the WWE or the memories of the WWE because it's unnecessary, I would probably agree with that small critique. But to say that he had the opportunity to have a party atmosphere and that he missed and struck out, I couldn't disagree more. I was a Grand Slam segment. I don't kiss no company's ass on this show. If anybody knows, it's you, Dave, how I feel about telling the truth, being honest and fair, and calling it right down the middle. I don't kiss AEW's ass. I don't kiss the WWE's ass. I don't kiss Vince McMahon's ass, Tony Khan's ass, Billy Corgan's ass, nobody's ass. I'm the most honest, brutally honest guy you will find in pro wrestling. Sometimes to a detriment, but I don't give a damn. Punk's moment, Punk's promo was awesome. Booker's entitled to his opinion.
Of course.
Maybe Booker heard things that resonated with him differently than it resonated with me. If Booker's argument is Punk should stay away from any and all WWE talk, I might agree. But I think that part of his career, the bitter taste that Punk had in his mouth from the WWE, is part of his story. And I felt that he felt the need to acknowledge it. I never thought that Punk used the WWE for a cheap pop when he came back at that. It's not like he said, screw them, where the people popped. I think he was just alluding to the history there. And I think that's the importance of him bringing up Ring of Honor. Because that's the last time Punk felt like a pro wrestler. He didn't feel like a pro wrestler in the WWE. I think it's more important that Punk mentioned Ring of Honor than the fact that he didn't mention the WWE. He alluded to the WWE.
Yeah, and there's two times during that 9-minute promo that he did. One was when he talked about, hey, Ring of Honor, my last match. He goes, that match where everybody has seen it. I get emotional. August of 2005, the last time that I wrestled, and that's, he didn't refer to the WWE, though the WWE, they waved the flag of sports entertainment. Vince McMahon's the first one to tell you, we are not pro wrestling. We are sports entertainment. So he alluded to that. And then the other one was where it was almost like an apology bully. He said, he said, if I have ever done anything during this time where I may have disrespected you or may have done some things you didn't like, let me just tell you, the only way I was going to get healthy mentally and physically was to get away from the company that got me sick in the first place. That was the only time, Bully, that he alluded to the WWE during that 9-minute promo.
And he talked about his health. Somebody posted a picture on social media yesterday of CM Punk's last day in the WWE, and they posted a picture of Punk side by side of what he looked like the other night. He looked like hell on his last day in the WWE. He looked like an addict who hadn't slept in weeks. You could see the wear and tear on his face. Now listen, the WWE will put you through the ringer and has been doing that for years and years and years. Punk had a nice run in the WWE. At the end of the day, Punk may have struggled in the beginning, but eventually found a way. He might not have agreed with a lot of things that went on there with himself or other talent, but hey, we've all been in that boat. It just depends on how it affects us and how we decide to handle it. I could tell you 100 things that I had to deal with there that I probably never shared with anybody that probably mirror some of the things that Punk has had to deal with. And every one of the boys who's ever been there has had to deal with. It happens to everybody. So when he kind of apologizes, what I was taking from that is, if you felt like I took my bat and my ball and I went home, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I had to do that for my own health reasons. I might sit here and go, you know what? Punk was a punk, couldn't handle the pressure, and he went home because he's not tough enough to handle it. It's his health at that moment that was more important than anything else. His mental health, and I can tell you by looking in that picture, his physical health, he did not look good. We all have to walk away for a variety of reasons. I told Vince McMahon at the end of our last run in the WWE, after I had been back for a year, I said, I can't do this Dudley shit anymore. I'm burnt out on it. My heart wasn't in it anymore. I did not like the way the WWE treated the Dudleys during the last run. I felt that they were using us to step on entirely too much. They were using us as a footstool for other teams as opposed to being the iconic tag team that could help pull other teams up. And I think that's a very valid assessment and argument that lots of fans agreed with. I did my time. I did my year. I got paid handsomely. But then I decided, hey, man, I got to go. You want to do the Bully Ray thing? We'll do the Bully Ray thing. If not, I'll see you down the road, brother. Appreciate all the money. I had a very great relationship with Vince. But different people handle different situations in different ways. Did I take my bat and ball and go home with a bitter taste in my mouth? No, I just told him, I can't do this anymore. And Dave, I have every reason to be pissed off. I was told we're doing Bully Ray. I was 48 hours away from Bully Ray. And I think Bully Ray would have worked in the WWE. I got a phone call and he said, sorry, can't do it. No problem. Thank you for calling me personally. Did I bitch and moan about it? This is not bitching and moaning about it. This is just using a personal example how to back up how we all go through our trials and tribulations in the WWE. Tommy Dreamer, a guy that we all know and love, right?
Yep.
No matter where he's been in wrestling, he's always at a pretty high level. In the WWE, what was Tommy?
He was
career mid-carder. Do you know how difficult that must be for Tommy to deal with? To know that every place I go, I've been able to work a main event, whether that was ECW or no matter where. Tommy's a beloved babyface, one of the most underrated babyfaces, in my opinion, in the world. Career mid-carder in the WWE. And if they didn't bring ECW back, where would Tommy have really been? What? Doing gross tricks and drinking Undertaker's tobacco spit and eating food off the floor? How hard do you think it is to deal with that year after year after year?
And also, too, on top of that, Bully, and you could say this about Matt Hardy's run both times before he left the WWE. Once to leave to go to TNA, the other time to leave to go to AEW. These guys were getting chants from the crowd. So I can't imagine how difficult that is to go down that entrance ramp where 15,000 people are chanting your name, and then 4.5 minutes later, you're leaving the ring after a loss. That's got to be hard to swallow.
It is not an easy place to navigate. It will test you mentally and physically. And you got to remember, when Punk was there was the time when we were all on the road 300 days a year. The physical grind is what it is. If he did not feel he was being treated the right way, or if he disagreed with creative, yada, 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 whatever it is, it affected him the way it did. He felt he had to leave. I felt that that was his apology for leaving. And that's really it.
And he left, and Bully, he left. Like, it's not like a Bill Parcells when he left the New York Giants, says, I'm burnt out, I'm done with coaching, and then signing a deal with the Jets. Like Punk, he was gone from pro wrestling for over 7 years.
And I think he knows his audience enough to realize that they probably appreciated the fact that he did allude to that WWE time just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
If Punk would have went out there, if I would have heard what Booker heard, what do you think my reaction would have been on this show?
Would have been like it would have been a negative reaction. It would have been
I would have
really
buried the shit out of CM Punk. Buried him. Because then I would have been like, you crybaby bitch. You had prime real estate handed to you, and you cried about the WWE? He didn't do that. I came on the show and I put him over to the moon.
Yeah.
Not because I had to, not because I wanted to, because he earned the right to be put over. AEW earned the right. Tony, for the way he handled the Punk situation, earned the right. And Punk for his delivery of the moment. And the fans earned the right to be put over to the moon. And the boys know, Dave, if I put you over to the moon, it's a big fucking deal.
Bully, first of all, that crowd was there to see CM Punk. That was the party, was Punk coming out in front of that crowd. So if you're looking for the party, for the AEW fan base, that was a party. It was trending number one. CM Punk was not AEW Rampage, not Chicago. CM Punk was trending number one on Friday. The most shirts sold in the history of pro wrestling tees that night for that CM Punk t-shirt when they put it out on sale. It was like, for him to say it was a strikeout, you are blind. I'm sorry, but you're blind. That was not a single, a double, a triple. It was not even a home run. That was
not
the
fair.
biggest
It's not fair
grand
for you
slam.
to say that not fair for you to say that Booker is blind. I think
That was a grand slam on Friday. A grand slam on Friday.
Booker is not blind. Booker is very smart. I think Booker went a little. Booker honed in on a tiny negative aspect of Punk's promo and decided to bring it to the forefront. Because if I would have had a discussion with Punk beforehand, and Punk would have said, hey, Bubba, this is what I'm going to say when I go out there. And he would have told me exactly what he did say on TV. I would have probably said, hey, brother, think twice about the WWE comments. Do you really need to acknowledge it at all? And that would have been a small little part of my advice. Booker honed in on that part of the promo. Booker is not wrong about what Punk decided to do by mentioning the WWE. On paper, he's right, but I don't think Punk mentioned it nearly enough to be ever considered a miss or a strikeout. It was a grand slam.
That's what I'm alluding to, being blind to what happened that night. If you want to have a small critique like you did about alluding to the WWE, I don't have a problem with it. I don't think the 20,000 fans in Chicago had a problem with it, but I understand it. But he talked more about Darby Allin than he even alluded to with the WWE. But to say he
talked
struck
more
out,
about Ring of Honor.
yes,
He mentioned Ring of Honor by name.
yes, he mentioned. But to say he struck out, I'm sorry. You missed it. You were blind to what actually happened that night at Rampage if you think that promo was a strikeout.
And if you remember correctly, how many times did I tell you I watched the segment?
I think you said it right that night. You watched it back 3 times.
3 times I watched the segment. If I watched the segment back 3 times, let's just say I missed it on the first one because I was so caught up in, wow, this is great. I would have caught it by the second one. I would have most definitely caught it by the third. Not one time watching that thing back 3 times, I go, oh man, he's talking too much about the WWE. This is coming off like sour grapes. Stay away from this Punk. No. Would I probably tell CM Punk, hey brother, just remember, you met your wife there and you made a killing there. And at the end of the day, you actually won because you got to become a world heavyweight champion. You were a true rebel. I told Punk to his face, I met Punk for the first time in a Gold's Gym in Orlando, Florida. And he was stretching on the floor. And he looked up and he saw me and he goes, I'm getting up on my feet for you. And we shook hands. And I told him, you're a true rebel. You would have fit in just fine with us back in the day. Because we understood what it was like to be in CM Punk's head and have that mentality. And he won. He got to the top of the WWE with a rebellious attitude. If anybody was a revolution, it was CM Punk. Not these kids who throw around the word revolution today. Revolution, your sister's ass. That kid was a true rebel. And this is why I say, stay away from the negativity of the WWE, because a lot of positive things came out of that place for you.
I'll agree. Now, there was something else that Booker T said in going back to Punk's promo. And again, no disrespect to Booker. He's a Hall of Famer. He's entitled to have this opinion. But I want to get your take when we're back right here. Thought it was a strikeout. Thought he spent way too much time talking about the WWE, and it should have been the party. And he alluded to what The Rock would have done if he came home to Miami and talked about the landmarks of Miami and driving over the bridge and yada yada. Obviously, a different fan base for AEW. CM Punk, completely different wrestler than The Rock.
But I don't think The Rock has ever felt disparaged by his time in the WWE. Whether you agree with Punk's assessment of his time there or not, you can't jump into his skin and know how he feels. He's telling you how he feels, and this is the way he decided to deal with it. And I thought he dealt with it in a totally fine way.
Now, Booker said that he could have had fun and could have had a party. Speaking of fun, then Booker talks about the ice cream bars that they gave out, or that CM Punk paid for to give to the audience. And Booker said this about the ice cream bars. He said, for me, it was the same promo that was given in WWE. It was about the WWE. Had nothing meaningful to it as far as what I'm going to create. Who am I going to blow up? How am I going to take AEW by coming in, being a nice guy, and throwing out freaking ice cream bars? Who gives a damn about them?
The AEW fans give a damn about the ice cream bars. They love the ice cream bars. There's a picture of Mark Henry with the ice cream bar. These ice cream bars are selling on eBay for $400. It's a fucking ice cream bar. Somebody must care enough about it to spend $400 on it.
Yes.
You can have as a professional, you're entitled to your opinion about how you felt something went down. Listen, me and you on this show is because of one match. What's the match?
Kenny Omega and Okada.
You thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I said, get out of here. It's nowhere near that. In my professional opinion, I can tell you why I thought Okada Omega was not nearly as great as you thought it was. I would never tell fans that it wasn't as great as they thought it was. If Booker is giving his professional opinion, but Booker would have to see with his own eyes and ears the magic that's taking place on his television. If you don't like the same music that I like, but 20,000 people love it, who's right and who's wrong? It's an opinion. And listen, again, Booker T is entitled to his opinion, but just so you know, and I wasn't sure to do with my CM Punk ice cream bar, okay? I was actually going to open it and dump it out and clean it and keep the wrapper. Boy, I'm glad I didn't do that, because for the wrapper of the CM Punk bar, you could get it on eBay for about $35. $35 right? For a wrapper. For a wrapper. For the unopened ice cream bar, it's going anywhere between $800 and $1,000. And you're holding an unopened ice cream bar in your hand right now? Yes. And that's $800 to $1,000 on eBay. Right now, people on eBay are asking anywhere from $800 to $1,000. So I guess some people care. I thought it was a nice gesture by Punk. Hey, didn't Busted Open do an event years ago that Paul Heyman was at, and Paul bought Chinese food for everybody at the Busted Open event from the Chinese place next door? Yeah, it was Jim Ross's one-man show. I was like the MC that night. There you go. And Heyman was there, and he bought like everybody's spare ribs from the Chinese restaurant next door. That's just a nice little show of appreciation to the fan base for being by the people's side. People are going to talk about it. People are going to remember it. It's a memorable moment. So Punk, one of the cruxes of Punk and the WWE was, I want the ice cream bars back. The WWE universe loved that. And I want my own ice cream bar. So if you're not going to do it, you know what? I'll do it for myself, and I'll buy ice cream for the 16,000 people here. What fan walked away from that event going, man, that ice cream bar stuff was stupid. I don't want a stupid ice cream bar. You got to know your audience. Punk knew his audience. I think Punk delivered to his audience. We got an angle out of it with Darby. We know we're getting Darby versus Punk it all out. Punk did the one thing that I have been talking about for years. He acknowledged Ring of Honor. You know how I feel about Punk and Ring of Honor in the same breath. I've said it a million times. I was happy to hear him acknowledge Ring of Honor because it's right for pro wrestling. So he acknowledges his history as a pro wrestler. He's giving the people what he wants. They angle it up at the end with Darby. And yeah, oh, by the way, I'm sorry if you people did not think the best of me over the past past 7 or 8 years. I was in a bad spot mentally because of the place that I was in. Okay, I get it. Moving on.
Yeah, again, it was near perfection. I thought it was perfection. You had the tiny critique, but I mean, Bully, people are still talking about it now. People are talking about the quote unquote Punk pop after what happened on Friday.
It's not a Punk pop. It's a Road Warrior pop.
Well, I'm just talking about.
I saw you chasing the hug on social media last night. You said, "Oh, the people are alluding." No, that's what you put on social media last night. Punk pop.
Punk
the
pop's
Road Warrior
different
pop.
than
The Road Warrior pop. No, it's not.
Punk pop. Punk pop's different than the Road Warrior pop.
Road Warrior pop.
It's a new generation. There's a new fan
Road Warrior
out
pop.
there.
No, we didn't. Then we should have called it the Austin pop.
But they didn't.
Then why are we calling it a Punk pop?
People are calling it the Punk pop.
It's a Road Warrior pop.
What I saw Friday night was the Punk pop. 877-344